we're going to talk about the altitude of a triangle, okay? The altitude of that first triangle is if you climb up to the top of the triangle and jump off. So in this, when it's drawn this way, this would be the altitude. Does everybody see that? Because if I climb at the top of that point of the triangle and jump off, I'm going to fall that distance of that leg. You understand that the leg is the altitude in that picture? In the second one, I'm going to jump from here. There I am. So this is the altitude when it's drawn that way. But today we're talking about the altitude that's in the middle of the triangle. If I draw the triangle where the point is up like this one, the altitude is actually this distance right here. Do you see it? Yeah. And that's what we're talking about today, is the one that's inside the triangle. We're not going to do that one or this one. We're going to use this one right here, this third one. Let's say that this number here is a 3 and a 9. And they want me to find the altitude. Okay? You're going to use this rule. What does the rule say? The altitude is the geometric mean. So what do? You set up a proportion, right? Between the two pieces of the hypotenuse that it creates. Well, this would be the hypotenuse because it's opposite the 90-degree angle. So it's between those two. So what goes kitty corner? If the altitude is the geometric mean, what goes kitty corner? Nope. Well, they go kitty corner, but what's the altitude? What's the altitude in this picture? I don't see a 6. What'd you say? X. There's an X. That's the altitude is the geometric mean between the two pieces of the hypotenuse that it creates.
So could I go 3?
That x squared equals 27, and x equals the square root of 27, so that's 5 point something. What is it? So it's 5.20, because it's 196. The 6 makes it go to the next number. 19 goes to 20. If the altitude's a geometric mean, we know the 8 goes kitty corner. The other 2 is a little bit harder. Pay attention. I'm going to go to the board right now. So if 6 is that little piece and the whole piece is x, this other piece here is the big piece minus the little piece, x minus 6. So now that's what you put across from each other. And make sure you put parentheses around the x minus 6. All right?
And the other was a 6.
Well, it's the altitude is the geometric mean between the two pieces of the hypotenuse it creates. So we know the left piece is 6, and we know the right piece is x minus 6. So those are the two things you put down. And we did ones like this, so now we're going to have 6x minus 36, when you FOIL this in, right, equals 64. So 6x equals 100. And x equals whatever 100 divided by 6 is, which is going to be 1 and 6. Repeating?
Yeah.
So 16.67.
Yes.
You can either write 16.67 or 16.6 repeating like that. I see that the bottom, everybody see where the hypotenuse is?
No.
It's the one opposite the 90-degree angle. So it's this side right here, this 12 side. Does anybody know what this little piece is?
A rectangle.
No, this little piece. How much does it measure?
How?
If the whole thing is 12,
6.
if the whole thing is 12,
Oh,
and the
sorry.
bigger piece is 8, that piece has to be 4, because it has to add up to 12, right?
Right.
So you guys can fill in some information there. So this is a 4. Let's fill that in. And now we're going to follow the rule, and we're going to find x and y. Each leg, x and y. Each leg is the geometric mean between the whole hypotenuse and the segment closest to that leg. So the two legs in this picture, which are they? What are the legs of a right triangle?
It would be x.
X and y. The two sides that are not the hypotenuse are called the legs. You remember that for HL and all that we did? All right, so let's do the x first. That is a leg. X is the geometric mean, goes kitty corner, right? Between the whole hypotenuse, how much is the whole hypotenuse measure?
12.
12. And the piece closest to the x. What's the piece closest to the x measure?
4.
4. Very good. You just follow the rule. Read the rule over and over and over again. So now we have x squared equals 48. X equals the square root of 48, which is high sixes. So 6.9 something maybe? Go ahead and tell me.
I have a question.
So the leg, the y, is the geometric mean between the whole hypotenuse, which is 12, and the piece closest to that leg, which is 8. When you cross multiply, you get y squared equals 96, and then y is 9.80. So let's do this. What if I put a z for the altitude, right? If we want to find the altitude, what rule do we use?
Use this one.
The first one. The altitude, z, is the geometric mean between the two pieces that it creates. What two pieces does it create?
4 and 8.
4 and 8. Very good. So the altitude is z squared equals 32. And the altitude is going to be 5 point something. What is it? The square root of 32. 5.66.
Sorry.